Hi, guys, and welcome to this special episode of Scout Report, where we will be talking about the three key players linked from Botafogo coming to Nottingham Forest. And we've got our experts on here to talk us through it all. Let's get into it. Evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to this live special edition podcast where the transfer window has opened today, and we're going to get straight into it because Forest are not messing around. And I've got two fantastic experts for you to talk us through everything. I got Pedro over from Glorious Botafogo YouTube channel. You can find his channel linked in the title. Please go and show him some love and respect for giving up his time. Make sure you subscribe to him. And I got Felipe Alves as well, the journalist in Brazil who speaks Portuguese and does understand English. And what was I going to say? And Pedro will kindly be translating as well. Felipe has spoken to Igor Jesus's agent, and we'll ask him all the questions on that to get all the details. But please do start by hitting that like button. Make sure you're subscribed as well. And let's jump into this. All right, boys, how are you doing? Thank you for your time. How are you, Pedro? How are you, Felipe?
Hey, man, doing well. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite. We're excited to talk about these guys. We're not excited about them going and leaving, but we are excited about them and their future as players, and because they are future national team gems, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to start with Igor Jesus, and Felipe was the one who broke it yesterday, speaking to Jefferson Batista. I just wonder if you could ask Felipe, Pedro, how that went and what information he got out about the transfer.
Felipe, ele está perguntando como é que foi essa conversa aí com o empresário do Igor Jesus, como é que foi, como é que rolou essa conversa?
Foi bem rápida, foi bem breve. Liguei para o telefone dele, consegui o contato, liguei para ele. Liguei na quinta-feira. Na quinta-feira liguei para ele para saber sobre o Igor Jesus e ele me informou que o Igor Jesus iria ficar até o final da temporada.
So he talked to him last week on Thursday. He called him very briefly, and at that time he had said that Igor would stay until the end of the season, of the 2025 season, which in Brazil ends in December. Vai, Felipe.
Aí de sexta-feira para sábado começou o GE, né, Globo, né, começou a publicar que ele iria embora após o Mundial de Clubes. E aí eu simplesmente pensei, vou ligar para ele para saber o que está vendo. Liguei para ele e ele me informou que toda a ação vem dele, não vem do Botafogo. A decisão é dele. O clube até queria que ele permanecesse até o final do ano e depois fosse para o Nottingham Forest. Depois, ele falou para mim também que o Igor também gostaria muito de permanecer no clube para terminar, né, a Libertadores, Brasileirão, jogar, ajudar os amigos dele. Mas essa decisão não é dele e que isso aí não fatura dinheiro para ele e ele precisa faturar. E foi isso que ele falou comigo. Para mim foi até pouco arrogante, né? O Jefferson foi bastante arrogante. E aí finalizou a conversa e falou que provavelmente, ainda disse assim, tá? Provavelmente que o Igor Jesus fique até o fim do Mundial de Clubes.
Okay.
Isso foi o que ele passou para mim.
So the very next day on Friday, so he spoke to him Thursday. On Friday, the biggest news source of football in Brazil, which is Global, said that Igor Jesus would be leaving after the World Cup of Clubs, right? So then he contacted the agent again, and the agent said that this movement is not actually coming from the club. It's not coming from the player either. It's coming from him. So the agent wants to see Igor make the move to Europe because he says that brings in money. And Felipe said he was actually kind of arrogant and dismissive of Felipe at during their talks. That says that Igor staying at Botafogo doesn't bring him money and all that, which is it's a very controversial way to talk about this transfer. And that says that it would be Igor's wish to stay until the end of the year, because at Botafogo he really found himself. He's got a lot of friends. So at Botafogo, everybody says anyone that comes in, doesn't matter if it's at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, it's like a family. It really is. And Igor really found himself there. So if it was up to the player, he would transfer at the end. But this transfer is coming from the agent himself.
So to clarify, neither the club or Igor were looking to push a move through. This has been the agent kind of spearheading it. Would that be
correct?
Would that be right?
According to Felipe, yes.
Yeah, interesting. And this was something that we saw in January, because Forest approached in the winter transfer window to get Igor. By the way, do we pronounce it Jesus or Jesus? What's the correct way?
Jesus.
So Forest approached in January to sign him, and we believe an agreement was reached at that time as well. But Igor declined it because he wanted to stay around. We think what we got told was because of the Club World Cup. So he seems to have been very firm in his wantingness to stay at Botafogo.
Yeah, I think so. Felipe tá falando aqui que o Forest na janela passada já queria, né, levar o Igor, e que o Igor recusou, que ele queria ficar no Botafogo, provavelmente para jogar o Mundial de Clubes.
Não, sim, e a gente até aqui está suspeitando de alguma transação, uma pré-transação que tenha sido feita anteriormente, em janeiro, porque não é comum um jogador abandonar a meio da temporada, né? Ele sempre completa a temporada, e o Botafogo também nunca sinalizou uma saída, tá, do Igor. Nos traz um pouco de anseio, nos traz um pouco de incertezas, porque do Botafogo não se comunicar e não dar nenhuma certeza de nada, não ter avisado nada. A proposta inicial foi de 30 milhões de euros no início do ano, e ela baixou 10 milhões a menos, foi para 20 milhões de euros. E isso aí deixou o pessoal um pouco com a pulga atrás da orelha, né? Deixou a gente um pouco assim ressabiado por que isso aconteceu. Que o Igor, ele vale muito mais, né? A Roma até tentou fazer a contratação dele e queria até pagar mais do que isso, né? Porque o Igor, ele minimamente ele vale 40 milhões de euros, né? Mas não entendi o porquê da movimentação, até porque, assim, a nível de como é que eu vou te explicar? A nível de espelho, né? A nível de janela, de uma vitrine, na verdade a palavra certa é vitrine. Por enquanto, estando no Botafogo, o Igor, ele poderia ir para a seleção brasileira com o Ancelotti, né? Com mais rapidez, né? Mas eu não sei se a visualização dele no Nottingham agora seria boa para ele.
Ok, deixa eu
não desmerecendo o Forest, mas é só mesmo por questões mesmo de visualização, né?
So Felipe thinks the whole transaction is a little weird, because apparently during Forest's first attempt for Igor, the value was around 30 million, not 20, and now it decreased to 20. So he's wondering if there was any sort of negotiation that already happened at that time, kind of behind the scenes to justify it coming down to 20, because Roma was willing to pay 30 plus for Igor, and now we're selling to Forest for 20. And he thinks that for Igor's career, it would be better to continue in Brazil because it's more exposure, because Ancelotti's really looking at Brazilian clubs. At the Brazilian national team international call-up, there was a lot of players from Brazil playing in there. And then Ancelotti was at Botafogo and Laú from Chile during the Libertadores, where Igor had really up the performance of the year. And I saw the comments from some of the fans, supporters from Forest, strictly talking numbers, return on goals, but you really have to watch Igor and how he plays. He's not your target man. He's not Harry Kane. He's more of a false nine, where he pulls back, and he can start to play. He can get the ball in the center circle and then move forward with it and almost be a playmaker. But he's also a good target man inside the box. Obviously not on the levels of Kane and Lewandowski, and these are world-class players. But if you look at how many goals Igor scored and how many of those have been headers, those are a lot for the Brazilian.
And he's only like 5'9", 5'10", isn't he, height-wise?
For Brazilian national team, for Botafogo. So going back to what Felipe was saying, it's a little weird that the numbers, just talking money-wise, but he believes there must have been something happened back then in January.
So it would have been a case of potentially speculating here that they would have accepted 30 maybe in January, but maybe a conversation went down to say, look, we want him for the Club World Cup. If you come in at the end of the English season, then we can do a reduced deal or something like that, potentially.
Perhaps, because Igor's wish was always to stay for the World Cup of Clubs.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk about him as a player? I know you just touched on him there, Pedro, in terms of his style. As you said, the biggest kickback I've seen in the comments, and a concern of mine as well, to be honest, is his return ratio on goals. I think just looking at his stats here, he's played 54 games, 15 goals, and 6 assists. But when speaking to you guys and other Brazilian friends I have, they hold him in the highest regards in terms of what he can do. So his style, will it match for us? I guess my first question is, what type of football does Botafogo play in terms of formation and style? And how does he fit into that?
Felipe, ele está perguntando aqui, eu vou responder primeiro rapidinho. Ele está perguntando como é que o Felipe é, ou como o Igor é como jogador, quais são as qualidades dele, e ele está perguntando aqui também como é que o Botafogo joga e como seria a maneira do Igor encaixar no time deles, né? Só responder aqui rapidinho, então. So I'm gonna answer this one first, and then Felipe is going to answer. So at Botafogo last year, we were playing a 4-2-4.
Okay.
With the former manager. So very attack-minded football, really trying to suffocate the opponents by having the wingers go as far up the pitch as possible to bring everybody back, and then the defenders and the center mids push in, and then we box the team in. And that's how Botafogo play. And then just recycle until you find a goal. And Igor was a lot of times either at the top of the box or coming out of the box to be a passing option. So when you're looking, he doesn't have a lot of goals, but that's because the way that we used to play last year, he was heavily involved in playmaking, as well as pulling back the center back, because he is a striker. So if they're doing a men mark, he pulls out the center back, which leaves a gap for, at the time, Almada, which is in Olympique Lyonnais right now, or Luis Henrique, which was our best player last year, to be free either on the outside or inside the box to finish and score. So the manager changed, and now we are playing sort of a positional type of play. So if the striker leaves the box to receive the ball, then the manager expects either the center attacking mid or the winger to fill that role, and then whoever's closest fills that gap, and then that gap. So it's kind of like a positional type of play. So when Igor this year, he's kind of all over the pitch. Like I said, he's like a false nine, but when we have the ball and we push forward, he plays the I guess classic striker role, which is to be inside the box to finish the play.
Yeah.
Which is why he's scoring a lot of goals this season compared to the start of last season, because he's not having to be like a dummy run for the winger. He's actually being the target man this season.
Has he been pivotal for your team this season? Do you feel like he's that link up between almost the midfield and then getting it out to the wingers and then getting himself back into the box? Is that has he been extremely pivotal for Botafogo?
Well, Igor has been the best player this season, for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's the best player this season. So I'll let Felipe give his 2 cents on that, and then I'll go back. Felipe, pode falar o que você acha do Igor.
O Igor é um jogador versátil, tá? Versátil, no meu ver. É um melhor centroavante, tá? Da América do Sul, atualmente. É um jogador muito veloz, tá? É um jogador de grupo, tá? É um jogador que funciona muito quando o grupo funciona com ele, ou joga com ele. Eu percebi nas suas palavras aí que você falou sobre o Almada. O Almada, se o Almada tivesse o Luiz Henrique, ajudaria muito nas construções. O Igor Jesus hoje, ele tá retornando muito, porque ele vai muito para ajudar na equipe, né? Ele retorna muito, mas se ele tivesse um posicionamento mais central e tivesse alguém para jogar a bola para ele, que era o Almada, que está faltando agora no Botafogo, se tivesse o Almada agora para ajudar ele, os números dele seriam muito maiores mesmo. Porque a gente perdeu o Almada, perdeu o Luiz Henrique, então, de certa forma, o ataque não é tão sólido, tão consistente como era antes. Mesmo assim, ele é um jogador que volta na área, na nossa área, retorna numa velocidade absurda, tem uma explosão muito grande. É um jogador, assim, fora da média, fora da curva, tem tudo para ser um jogador aí muito cobiçado. Acredito até mesmo que o Forest não consiga segurar ele por muito tempo, não, tá? Acredito muito, muito nisso. 1 temporada e meia, 2 no máximo, vai conseguir segurar ele.
So Felipe was saying that Igor is a very versatile player, like I was telling you. Like he's a target man, he's a false nine, right? He can kind of do everything in that offensive part of the pitch. To Felipe, one of his best qualities is he's very fast, he's very explosive. So once he gets the ball and he takes off, he can gain some speed. I don't know, in the Prem, physicality, it's a very dominant trait in defenders. Yeah. So if he can beat the defenders using the speed versus being physical, I think he's going to be good there. But Igor is very like a group-minded player. He's very tight with his teammates. And if the group is working, then Igor really shines. So he can't be the guy that's going to put the team on his back, although he's been doing that this season for Botafogo. He works really well if the rest of the team works. And last year we had Thiago Almada, that used to be the link up between the center mids and the strikers. So he was working well, but this season we don't have that. So Igor is having to come out of the box a lot more, and having to take on 2 or 3 defenders and oftentimes beating them on foot. So if we had somebody like Thiago Almada, for example, or Luis Henrique, his numbers this season would have been much better. And he thinks that Igor at the Prem playing for Forest, he would be surprised if he lasts more than 1 or 2 seasons, because he thinks that a team would probably go to you guys and offer a ridiculous lump sum of money to take him.
Wow, so you guys really do hold him in that high regard, and it seems unanimous. Whoever I speak to that watches Botafogo, even I have friends of Palmeiras fans and Corinthians fans and stuff, and they all highly rate this player.
The beginning of the season for Botafogo wasn't the greatest as a whole, because it's a new coach and it's a completely different style of play than Arthur Jorge. Renato Paiva is totally different. So the team was going through an adaptation period, and it wasn't really adapting that well. And it reflects in the numbers. It reflects on the individual performance of Igor, but now everybody's kind of starting to to do well. And Botafogo is doing better. At the beginning of the season, we were out shouting, "Get this guy out of here! He's not a good manager." But now he's doing better. But it's a general consensus that amongst Botafogo supporters that Igor is the best striker in South America, and I think other Brazilians will probably put him top 3, top 5. But we really do think that he's the best striker in South America right now.
Wow, that's high praise indeed. I'll ask you guys a tough question, a bit on the spot, so you may not be able to answer it, but just for the viewers watching, if you had to liken him to another striker or attacker, who would you most compare him to, you know, in terms of his style and his play? It's a tough question. I hate it when people ask me it, but is there anyone that springs to mind?
O Felipe, ele tá perguntando aí se você pudesse comparar o Igor Jesus com algum atacante, assim, quem que você acha que ele seria uma comparação boa?
Porra, sinceramente, eu vou te falar, acredite se quiser, não estou falando agora no final de carreira não, tá? Que mesmo assim jogou muito bem. Me lembra qual é o nome daquele jogador que teve agora no Grêmio, que saiu, foi pro MLS, foi pro Inter de Miami?
O
Me
Suárez?
faz lembrar ele. Oi?
O Suárez?
Me faz lembrar ele.
Okay, so he's saying that he reminds him of Luis Suarez a little bit.
Because he does that drop back deep, almost can play in between the lines kind of thing. I can see that. Yeah, would you agree?
That's a fair assessment. And when it comes to like tactically talking about, because I think Igor is faster than Suarez, but maybe not as physical. So there's, you know, and some of the strengths are very similar. Very smart. I think Igor is a very smart player. And I think you do need to have that quality for the Prem. You need to not only be physical and fast, but you got to be smart.
Yeah, the IQ.
But I think it's pretty close in some regards. Obviously, Suarez is much better finisher. I think he is undoubtedly Suarez at 24 and Igor at 24. Suarez is probably better. But I can see.
Imperador também.
It says Adriano, former Adriano. I think Adriano's
old school Adriano.
I think Adriano's much more physical, but
he's really physical. Yeah,
I can kind of see Igor's. He doesn't have that long shot trait. You're not gonna see him. You're not gonna see him scoring long shots. You're just not. But inside the box, he has a higher than average finishing capacity than I think a lot of these modern strikers. I can't really think of a name right now.
I know it's a tough question.
Nothing really comes to mind. Maybe like a Iago Aspas or something like that.
Okay.
You know, something of that sort. You know, something like that. Yeah.
I hear that. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you scan this QR code here, that will take you straight to Pedro's channel where you can subscribe, or you can click on the link that's in the title or in the description. They're giving up their time, guys, to explain to us about these 3 players that potentially Forest are getting. So please do show them some love and make sure you go and subscribe. Also, Pedro's Twitter or X, or whatever it's called these days, is in the description, as well as Philippe's as well, who's breaking all the information on this transfer. So please make sure you're following them. Make sure you've hit the like button on here as well. Pedro, I've got a couple of questions coming in from the chat. And if there's any questions, chuck them in super chats and we'll get them across to the boys on the panel. Thank you, Dean.
Do chat agora, Felipe.
Sim.
Dean says, thank you for the £5. He says, evening, Wolfie. Can you ask the experts, why is Botafogo selling off their so-called good players? Excellent question, Dean. Pedro, Felipe, why?
Excellent question. And it's a very divisive topic among Botafogo fans. Felipe, o cara do chat está perguntando por que o Botafogo está vendendo assim os seus bons jogadores?
É uma pergunta muito ruim, muito cruel. Cara, olha, a gente não sabe qual é o movimento, assim, a gente brinca, tem uma brincadeira que a gente faz aqui, John Textor have a plan. Ele tem um plano, só que a gente não sabe que plano é esse. Assim, a gente acredita que dê certo, porque assim, ele é um cara que faz muito suspense, e quando ele quer aparecer, ele é espalhafatoso, ele é hollywoodiano, né? Ele gosta desse negócio de chegar, fazendo festa, mas esconder as reais intenções dele durante um bom período. A gente sabe que a Igor está passando por alguns problemas. A gente vê que o Botafogo, na verdade, vamos ser bem sinceros, ajudou a sustentar grande parte dos erros, dívidas que o Lyon possuía. Né? O dinheiro todo que a gente conquistou com Libertadores, com Brasileiro, com a receita inteira do ano 2024 foi toda para o Lyon. Na verdade, para Igor sanar as dívidas do Lyon. Não sabemos se... vendemos no início do ano o Luiz Henrique, agora está indo o Igor Jesus, inclusive está indo também, provavelmente, o nosso zagueiro, né? O nosso zagueiro e o nosso lateral, que agora virou atacante. É engraçado também, né? Que é o Cuiabano. Então, e até gostaria de saber de você, devolver a pergunta, não só falar sobre isso, mas também devolver com uma pergunta, o que você está sabendo aí sobre Cuiabano e sobre o nosso defensor, Jair?
Okay, so here's Felipe's answer. So, like I say, there's a joke amongst Botafogo plans that John Textor has a plan, but we don't know what that plan is because he's very kind of like mystic. Like he hides in the shadows, and then whenever he shows up, he kicks the door open. Right? So he's very Hollywood style, like you don't know when I'm coming until like the bombs are going off and here's John Textor. So Eagle football has had some money issues. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on with Olympique Lyonnais, having issues there. So there's this discussion that happens between OL fans and Botafogo supporters, like, you took our money to buy all these players, which is what Olympique Lyonnais supporters are saying, and then Botafogo fans are saying, you taking our money that we won from the Brasileirão and the Libertadores to pay your debts. So it's like it's like tem aquela meme do Homem-Aranha, Felipe, uma ponta pro outro. So it's like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other, but they're the same people. Right? So that's basically what's going on.
And Crystal Palace is part of that as well, because he owns, I think, 45%.
He's a minority owner, but he by himself owns more than the other three, if that makes sense. So Igor has had a lot of financial issues. So we sold Luis Henrique, which was a best player last season, and became an instant, automatic icon in Botafogo supporters. And now, we're selling Igor Jesus, and we're selling possibly Jair and Cuiabano. So now my part of the answer to that is that Eagle football is a business.
E faz mais uma pergunta para ele também, que é bem engraçado. Se ele vai comprar o Cuiabano atacante ou se ele vai comprar, se eles sabem que se eles vão comprar o Cuiabano atacante ou se vão comprar o Cuiabano lateral, porque o Cuiabano agora aqui no Brasil está jogando de atacante, mas ele é lateral.
Okay. So Eagle football is a business, and the model of the business is buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
And John Textor is, say what you want, he's a businessman, and he's not a billionaire because he does not know how to do money transactions, right? So buy low, sell high. Igor Jesus, free transfer, now going for 20, possibly 30. Cuiabano, very cheap, possibly going for a good number. Jair would cost a pretty penny. He's not gonna leave cheap, he's gonna go for a hefty price too. So that is why Botafogo is selling these players, to make money. And then we have the best scouting department in South America. That's just the truth. We are going to find another player that is leaving some club in Saudi Arabia on a free transfer. We're going to find a gem from Argentina, which we did. We just signed what they're calling the next Almada. He's coming to Botafogo. So now Felipe has a question. He's asking if you know what's going on with Cuiabano, because you just put this picture there. Do you know what's going on the Forest side of things, behind the scenes, if you have heard of anything? And second, are you guys buying Cuiabano left back, or are you buying Cuiabano forward? Because Cuiabano can play both positions, and right now he's playing as a left winger.
This one's fascinating me, because I wanted to ask you where you think he was better at. Because at the moment, on the left side, we play Callum Hudson-Odoi in that position when he's fit, and he's had a very good season. At left back, we've converted the guy we bought from Liverpool, Nico Williams, who was initially a right back. He's converted to a left back, and he's had a very good season as well. So this one with him, I'm not sure which position we would look at him for. Maybe both, because we haven't had depth on that side. Because if you look at, we've had Roman Sosa come in as well, and he hasn't had much game time this season. He came from South America in the summer, and outside of that, the depth on the left-hand side is very weak. I actually think he will come in to potentially play or cover for both positions. But how good is he? Should we move on to him? And how good is he? And what your opinions are on left back or left mid for him? Because that one's confused me. Because as you say, I think he can play well in both. Looks very strong as well, yeah.
Yes. So, Felipe, ele está perguntando se você acha que o Cuiabano é melhor lateral ou melhor ponta?
Sinceramente, os dois.
You said both. He's good at both.
Yeah.
My opinion of Cuiabano is that, yes. Oh, hold on. Breaking news right here. Jair has just been sold to Forest. Saiu agora, Felipe, que o Jair, Botafogo encaminhou a venda do Jair pro Forest.
Viu?
Saiu agora. It just came out right now.
Eu nem sei quem é o agente dele. Senão eu tinha ligado. Deixa eu te falar uma coisa. Tem outra coisa que tá me deixando curioso, tá? Falar para ele meus parabéns, tá? Pela aquisição, que é um zagueiro, apesar de ser novo, e não ter essa experiência toda, ele é muito bom mesmo. Não deve nada para zagueiros que tenham mais idade que ele. E, inclusive, já pegando o gancho do zagueiro, eu tô com uma dúvida muito grande em relação ao Lyon. O Nottingham Forest fez um movimento de comprar zagueiros do Lyon, e agora o Lyon está querendo comprar um zagueiro do Forest. Eu não entendo isso. É curioso. E, para finalizar, outra pergunta, se você conseguir lembrar, o que ele acha que realmente os jogadores que estão vindo do Botafogo para o Forest, se ele acha que vão amadurecer para ir para um grande da Premier League, ou para vender para outro time da Europa, ou realmente é só por uma questão de necessidade do Forest mesmo em ter um elenco forte.
Okay, so let me give my 2 cents on Cuiabano, and then I'll quickly say what Felipe said here. So I think Cuiabano is kind of like an attacking wing back. I think that's his true. I think that's his true position. I think he excels a lot going forward because he is fast. He is strong. He doesn't necessarily have the best ball control, I think because he was so used to playing left back for a while that when you get to inside the box, he still lacks the offensive, like the natural offensive movement because he's playing a defensive role for so long. But because he is fast and he is very physical, he is able to win challenges, which is why he was excelling at left back to begin with. But he had an injury. He was out for a little while, and then he lost opportunities at Grêmio. And then he came to Botafogo based on what some of his friends were talking. Players talking behind the scenes.
How much did you get him for? Sorry, Pedro.
Felipe, você lembra quanto foi a venda do Cuiabano, do Grêmio pro Botafogo?
10 milhões.
De reais?
10 milhões de euros.
Do Grêmio pro Botafogo?
É.
Okay, so it was about 10 million euros from Grêmio to Botafogo. So I think he really excels if he will have a teammate that is kind of able to swap on that role, right? If he goes forward, the other one stays back. If the other one stays forward, he stays back. He really will excel in that. And he scored a beautiful long shot, and it's something that I've been noticing lately, that he's been trying to take a lot of shots from that side, because Botafogo kind of brings everybody to that one side, and then he likes to go from fullback to fullback cross, and always finding that fullback by himself. And Cuiabano scored goals like that this season and last season. So no, he's not Roberto Carlos, obviously, but he is strong, he is fast, and he's going to be able to score you some goals if left alone. But if
is he better than Renan Lodi? I loved Lodi when he was at Forest. Lodi.
Felipe, eu acho ele melhor que o Renan Lodi, você não acha? O Lodi, aquele cara do Atlético Paranense que foi pro Forest, o Lodi, o Renan Lodi, você lembra dele?
Lembro.
Acho que o Cuiabano é melhor do que ele, não?
Porra, desculpa. Não tô querendo porque não é que tá no meu time, não, mas o Cuiabano bota umas 10 vezes melhor que ele. Pelo amor de Deus.
He agrees. Cuiabano is way better than Lodi.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay, that's exciting.
So Felipe was saying something about that he thinks it's interesting because Olympique Lyonnais and Forest were kind of going back and forth between negotiating center backs. And he thinks it's interesting that now Botafogo and Forest are negotiating center backs when Lyon and Forest were negotiating, because there was something that came out in the news that John Textor and the owner of Forest were kind of talking behind the scenes about trying to see if they could do something to kind of align the clubs as like partners. So he thinks that's very peculiar was the word that he said.
But he has good reason to say that, because in last summer's window, we sold Niakate to Lyon and we sold Mangala as well to Lyon. When they seemed to be in heavy financial trouble, and they paid over the market value for those two players.
Correct.
But I don't know if this then ties into these deals that are going on. So it's interesting what you're saying.
It's very interesting, right? O Felipe, ele falou que ele concorda com você, que é bem peculiar, né? Bem interessante, porque o Forest vendeu os zagueiros pro Lyon quando o Lyon não tinha dinheiro, e o Forest o Forest comprou os zagueiros e pagou até acima do mercado, né? Sim, é bem interessante, né, que tá saindo essas negociações com o Jair, com o Cuiabano e com o Igor. And he was also asking you, what do you think the plans are for these players, for Igor, for Cuiabano and Jair? Because do you feel like Forest is going to try to develop them? Do they start right away, or do they get sent somewhere else and then return to Forest?
Yeah, this is what is interesting about it, because we have Olympiacos and we've got Rio Ave as well within the Marinakis family. We are seeing a lot of players who looks like Forest have bought and then they loan out to Olympiacos, for example. Now, that was potentially going to stop because we were going to end up in the same European competition as Olympiacos, but we ended up in the conference and they've ended up potentially in the Champions League. So we can still do that. So I do expect at least one of the two defenders to end up at Olympiacos loaned out to develop them further. We saw this happen last summer with Como. He went to Olympiacos. He's going to come back to Forest, I think, this transfer window once that loan has finished. And it seems it's almost like a conveyor belt effect. The Marinakis group, because we got Edu now as well, the ex-Arsenal, bro. He's very heavily involved in what's going on in Brazil. He seems to be looking for the talents there to bring them into the Marinakis group. And if they're exceptional, say, in Igor Jesus, they go straight to Forest. If they need a bit of development into Olympiacos or Rio Ave. And that seems to be the makeup. So I can't tell you for sure how this plans out. But with Jair, because we got Murillo and Milenkovic, who have been, for me, one of the best centre-back pairings, unless Nuno's looking to go to a back three, which I don't think he will, I don't know if he's going to send him maybe to Olympiacos, but I think Jair looks fantastic. I know he's only played a handful of games, but he's got such a profile that looks like he would suit the Premier League as well.
Jair's the future of the national team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe so. O Felipe, ele tá falando aqui que ele acha que pelo menos um dos dois, ou o Cuiabano ou o Jair, pode ir pro Olympiacos. Que é o que ele acha. Ele acha que Jesus
vão
chega...
chegar. Depois de chegar, eles vão ser emprestados, isso?
Isso. Um dos dois, ele acha. Eu acho que provavelmente o Jair, porque ele já tem bons zagueiros no Forest.
Eu vou dar uma exclusiva aqui para vocês, tá? Não é doideira, não.
Okay, he's about
Mas
to say
há uma probabilidade muito grande, por um motivo na qual eu não posso falar agora, mas o Savarino talvez não esteja depois do Mundial de Clubes.
Também ouvi.
Tá? Okay. E agora não sei para onde vai.
Tá. Okay,
não sei para onde vai.
No, he was saying, I released a video yesterday talking about possible departures for Botafogo.
Yeah, I watched a very good video. Guys, make sure you watch it as well.
And mostly talks about the transfers going to Forest. But he just said that right now, it's funny because I don't know if you saw my video or not, but there's also a possibility of Savarino leaving the club. Now, he says that he doesn't really know where, and he can't say the source just yet, but he said that there's a really high probability that Savarino also leaves after the World Cup of Clubs, which is funny because I posted that yesterday, so our information coincides as well. And if he goes, but Savarino, I think it's more of a move to perhaps La Liga. I think he fits that style well, but at this point, I don't know if Forest is just going on the bargain purchase right now, like an outlet, like they do in America, in the United States, where they have an outlet mall and you can buy everything for cheap.
I hear you. We did this the last 2 years. We did this with Palmeiras. We went and got Danilo and Scarpa from them. Then last season we went to Corinthians and we took Miguel, the goalkeeper. And obviously just before that we got Murillo, who's been amazing as well. So Forest do have a tendency of when they go into a club, they're like, what else have you got? What else can we get? So that's fascinating.
Fala para ele que pode ter certeza absoluta que aqui no Brasil, essa conversa aqui, ela vai explodir, mas assim, viralmente, mas muita coisa. Ele pode ter certeza disso.
He says, best believe that our conversation, it's going to explode in Brazil.
Pedro, you mentioned you just heard breaking news on Jair signing. Can I just take you back to that? So have you got any information on it at all? So guys, exclusive breaking news for you here.
It just came out at Globo, the biggest news source in Brazil. So when we said Botafogo has advanced the signing, it's the wording that they're saying, right? It's the signing has advanced. It basically means that the sale is done and it's only not going to happen due to a disaster.
Mas já melhorou muito. A Globo melhorou muito com o Botafogo.
Yeah, because Globo back in the day, you used to call them flat press, which is Flamengo is our biggest rival. And they also have the biggest amount of supporters in Brazil and the world, actually. So it's not unlikely that a lot of journalists are going to be supporters of that club. So there's a lot of positive press towards that club, and
isso é verdade.
always positive press towards the club who shall not be named. But it's getting better. It's getting better for Botafogo. So they're doing much better reporting. And I must say that the reporters from Globo covering Botafogo right now, which is their names are Sérgio Santana and JP Fragoso. They're excellent journalists. So just to throw that out there. But we're asking.
Obrigado por ter lembrado de mim, tá?
Felipe, of course.
I'm Felipe, of course.
Mas eu tava falando que you're talking about Jair, correct? Is
yes.
The question you had asked me? I think Jair is the future of the national team as far as one of the spots for that center back. He is so good. At just 18 years of age, or 17 at the time, having to play a Serie B for Santos, which is a big club in Brazil. That's a lot of responsibility, and he took that responsibility well.
É uma jovem promessa.
He's just a very young, promising gem in Brazilian football. And behind the scenes, Botafogo had signed 2 center backs. One fell through, and one did get signed. So it's not a surprise to me as to why we were trying to sign 2 center backs. Is because one of them, Jair, is leaving, and our starting. So he came to be a direct substitute for our center back called Bastos Kansanga. I don't know if you remember Bastos, where he played for Lazio. He played from some European clubs. Very strong, very good center back, and he was, alongside our center back Alexander Barbosa, the best duo in Brazil last year. But Bastos got hurt. Bastos was injured. It was a very serious injury, and he is just now returning to play with the ball. He's not even ready to play yet. And then Jair, who just happened to be at the right place at the right time, earned the starting position over the other center backs, and he's doing good. The only thing I have to say about Jair is that his excessive amount of confidence can be detrimental here and there. Like, for example, when we played Laú for the Libertadores, Jair does what he does, which is he gets the ball, he takes a step forward, and sometimes he loses the ball. And when he does, he tries to get it back. And when he did, he fouled one of the Laú players and got a straight red. So,
but that's an experience, isn't it? At that stage, potentially, and you would expect, because we still getting a little bit of that with Murilo.
Yes, it's a bit of an experience thing, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of inexperience.
Felipe, I mean, eu falei para ele do Jair, que o Jair é muito bom. Que o Jair,
muito.
Só que ele ainda tem o excesso de confiança dele é tão grande que de vez em quando ele faz umas jogadas e acaba perdendo a bola, né? Que já aconteceu algumas vezes, como aconteceu contra a Laú, que ele perdeu a bola
pelas costas.
Excesso de confiança e acabou perdendo, fez uma falta, tomou um cartão bobo, mas é experiência que vai chegar pro Jair, que ainda falta um pouquinho para ele, mas chegando a essa experiência, ele vai ser um zagueiro futuro da seleção, eu acho. Concordo? Eu acho que falta um pouquinho pro Jair a experiência. Quando ele pegar essa experiência, ele vai ser dono da camisa.
Não, eu acredito que ele vai ser muito grande. Esse menino vai ser muito grande. Ele já é da seleção brasileira sub-20, né? Já é da seleção brasileira, conquistou, né, lá o título, né? É um jogador promissor. Para mim, a confiança dele poderia levar ele a um caminho ruim, mas eu acho que está sendo benéfico para ele essa confiança. Porque a gente, quando se confia, a gente confia muito em algo, a gente pode prejudicar o nosso próprio trabalho, às vezes, por excesso de autoconfiança. Mas, no momento, para ele, está sendo bom. Ele está sabendo dosear isso, está sabendo administrar isso. Então, para mim, vai ser um ótimo jogador. E vou te dizer uma coisa, ele falou que o técnico provavelmente o Forest vai emprestar o Cuiabano e o Jair. Eu vou dizer uma coisa para você, cara, se eles jogarem junto com o Igor, dá muito mais chance de o Igor dar certo no Forest. Em adaptação.
So he said that yes, Jair does have this very high regard to his confidence, right? He's a very confident player, and that it has actually played to his benefit. This confidence of playing with confidence. But yeah, it's an experience thing. He already won titles with the national team, U20, so it's just a matter of time before he climbs the ranks. But he was saying
is he
that
quick for his height, Pedro, pace-wise?
Você acha o Jair zagueiro rápido? Ou por causa
Sim.
da altura dele?
Sim, rápido.
Sim, he believes so. I believe so too. I mean, he's got long legs, so
Bom em lançamentos, tá? É bom em lançamentos.
Good with long passes as well. You know, sending that long through ball. He's very good with that.
And does he prefer the right-hand side of the
yes,
back?
right, yeah.
The right and then Murillo on the left. Wow.
So yeah. So he also thinks that it'll be beneficial. He thinks that it'll be beneficial if Jair stays to help in the adaptation process of Igor as well, to having them both there.
Absolutely.
Outra coisa que eu acho é o seguinte, o futebol inglês ele é muito rápido, né? É muito tático, muito rápido, linhas altas. Eles já estão acostumados com isso. E tem jogadores, né, que precisam de ter jogo rápido do lado deles. O funcionamento deles é de jogo mais rápido. E eu acredito que tanto o Jair, o Cuiabano e o Igor são jogadores assim, que precisam dessa agilidade, dessa compensação, dessa trocação no jogo. E que se eles forem a campo juntos, a melhor adaptação do Igor vai ser bem mais rápida, de ambos, né? De todos eles, dos três.
He thinks that Jair is a fast center back and that he does well with players that are also that got some pace on them to be able to follow him, not only thought process but also physically speaking. And that's why he thinks that if Cuiabano and Igor would stay, especially Cuiabano, I think they would actually help each other immensely by staying together. But that's obviously not up to us. That's up to your manager. And yeah.
Yeah, I know your boys are playing now, so I don't want to keep you guys any longer. The football is more important. I would love to finish this conversation off with you guys in a few days when things are developed. And chat, I hope you've enjoyed it. But would you like to see them back? Let us know by making sure you're subscribed over on Pedro's channel, that you're following both of them on X. All the information you need in the title and in the description. Get those likes up as well. We've got over 1,000 in here across the platform. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you've hit the like button. They're all saying yes in the chat, boys. They've really enjoyed this. So maybe we give it a couple of days, see how these transfers develop. And I'd love to welcome you both back to the channel if that's okay. But I don't want to, the football's more important. I don't want to hold you from that with your big game.
It's already here on my second window.
So we're going to close it there, guys. Philippe, Pedro, I can't thank you enough. The insight has been phenomenal. Pedro, your insight into your team. Philippe as well, the insight into your team and the deals that are going on. We really do appreciate it. I know the chat does as well. Just another reminder, please go and follow them. Honestly, they'll keep you posted on all the events going on Botafogo. So thank you all for watching so much. And Pedro's even got a Forest shirt there. Just nicely put there, and he's had that for ages. It wasn't, he's a Forest fan. I'll convert him slowly.
Felipe tá agradecendo aqui, falou que daqui a alguns dias, quando tudo finalizar, gostaria que a gente retornasse aqui para fazer outra live com eles e que pediu pro pessoal seguir e tal. Se você quiser falar alguma coisa aí, eu traduzo para ele.
Não, muito obrigado pelo convite, tá? Em breve teremos mais informações e falaremos aqui. Muito obrigado, Pedro, tá? Por estar aqui comigo, me ajudando aqui nesse trabalho. E vamos juntos, cara, vamos juntos aí, porque tem muito mais aí para a gente oferecer e trazer aí opiniões e também informações importantes sobre os dois times.
He says, thank you so much for having us. He really appreciates the opportunity. And yeah, once these deals, some of the other ones advance, we're more than happy to come back and talk about it. Yeah, if there's a team in red in England, it ain't gonna be Man United or Liverpool that I'm gonna support. It's gonna be Forest. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Thank you guys so much. Chat, make sure you've hit the like. Please go and follow Pedro over on his YouTube channel, Glorious Botafogo. It's in the title. Just click it and show him some love. And just very quickly before we close, a massive thank you to Dean for the super sticker and for the gifted membership as well. We will see you all on the next video. The transfer window is 1 day old and Forest have nearly signed 3 players. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.